Very good afternoon to all of you. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon for the opening of the ASEAN Conference on Food Security, the role of the private sector. It is encouraging to see such a wide representation of participants from not just the public sector, but also the private sector, academia, and other organizations to discuss and exchange views on the key topic of food security over the next 2 days. Over time, food security has gained prominence and is fast becoming a global issue similar to that of climate change. Many of us will remember the food supply crunch in 2008, which led to price hikes in various key food items, including rice and meat. Some food exporting countries responded by imposing export restrictions, raising concerns amongst the food importing countries. Although international food prices have stabilized in recent months, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, forecasts that food prices would remain well above the long-term average throughout this decade. With an expanding world population, the global demand for food will continue to rise. The key question is whether there is adequate supply to feed 9 billion people by 2050. Some studies have shown that the arable land area per capita is declining. The growing demand for agricultural produce will thus exert more pressure on our scarce agricultural resources. This trend is exacerbated by greater urbanization, and as more people live and work in the cities, there will be more competition for land and water between agriculture and other strategic urbanization needs. There is hence a higher risk of production shortfalls. Another key trend which impacts food security is climate change. Regardless of the sciences behind the causes of global warming, I believe we are in agreement of its impact on global food supply, since food crops and livestock are highly sensitive to extreme weather conditions. There was a report only last week that in Thailand, the world's largest rice exporter, is facing major losses to its next crop of rice due to the country's worst drought in nearly 2 decades. To make matters worse, heavy rain is expected in the next few months, causing flash floods which could potentially wipe out their planted seedlings. There is also a recent study which concluded that nearly 60 million people around the Himalayas would face food shortages in the coming decades as glaciers shrink and the water sources for crops dry up. Against the backdrop of an expanding world population, urbanization, and climate change, we are faced with several challenges to ensure and enhance food security. Let me briefly elaborate on 3 key challenges. The first challenge is the increased agricultural investments to feed a growing population. The FAO has estimated that the net investments in agriculture must top more than $80 billion per year, or up by 50% from the current levels, in order to meet the food demand of 9 billion people by 2050. Areas requiring investments include infrastructure, crops and livestock production, as well as downstream support services such as food processing, cold chains, storage facilities, and market facilities. Investments required for agricultural growth would need to come from both the private and the public sectors. However, agribusiness is not for those looking for quick returns. While governments may reallocate public spending and incentivize private sector investments in the agricultural sector, companies should also view the investment as a long-term proposition to help boost food supply. The key challenge is the need to develop sustainable agri-food systems as we enhance our agri-production capacity. How can governments and companies around the world increase food production in an environmentally sustainable manner? We are all too familiar with the wide-ranging environmental impact of increasing agricultural yields. For example, excessive fertilizer and pesticide use could pollute waterways, or poor farming practices could deplete soil fertility and diminish biodiversity, or while the use of chemicals and antibiotics in fish farming could result in product safety, which is key to consumer concerns. Hence, it is not just about producing more to feed more people. it is also about doing so in an environmentally responsible way. The agri-food industry should develop new technologies to encourage sustainable agricultural practices. This entails investment in research and innovation throughout the entire food chain, with companies, research institutions, and governments working in partnership to optimize the yield potential of crops and livestock and ensure the wholesomeness of food products. The third key challenge is to continue to promote free trade in food between exporting and importing countries. The markets for food commodities are highly integrated. We should strive to avoid imposing protectionist measures as they can lead to volatile food prices and supply shortages, as was the experience 2 years ago. From a global perspective, it is important for countries to ensure a properly functioning global food market in order to boost the overall food supply.